Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to this licensing subcommittee. I'm Councillor Les Fry, representing Dorchester West. My colleagues are...
I'm Councillor Brian Heatley from Roble and Wyke in Weymouth.
Shaftesbury. Thank you.
We now need to elect a chair for the meeting. Do I have a proposal from one of the members of the subcommittee, please?
Propose yourself, Chairman.
Thank you.
And I second that.
Thank you very much. Do we have any apologies, please?
Apologies for absence were received from Councillors Mike Dyer and Andrew Starr, substituted by Councillors Derek Beer and Brian Heatley. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interest?
Not from me.
None.
No, thank you. No.
None, thank you. Do we have any urgent business?
There are no urgent items, thank you.
Right, what I'd like to do now is go around everybody and introduce who we all are, please. So we've introduced ourselves. I'm going to start at the front of it and we'll go around the room. So Kate, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name's Kate Critchell. I'm a Senior Democratic Services Officer.
I'm Phil Crowder. I'm the committee's legal advisor.
John Miles, Democratic Services. I'll be taking the minutes for this meeting. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sophie Gardiner.
Sarah Knight.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Aileen Powell. I'm the licensing team leader and the report author. And to my left is one of my licensing officers who is here to observe. It's Laura Goff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. That's very helpful. I'm now going to ask the report author to outline the details of the case, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make one minor adjustment to the report. The Section 182 guidance has actually been updated since the report was written. There has been nothing added or taken away that would affect this application, but you just need to note that it's different guidance that you now need to consider the application under. There are two applications in front of you today, Chair, and before we start, can we make a decision as to whether you're going to hear these separately one at a time or whether we're going to combine them, given the fact that we've got the same, they're very similar applications and we've got very similar objections and everything to them.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I think we'll hear them simultaneously, the two.
I think we should, Chair, as long as the applicant doesn't mind.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Yep.
Councillor Wakely, I understand you're on screen there. Could you just like to come and say hello and introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, can you hear me? Yes, good morning. My name is Councillor Luke Wakeling. I'm representing Weymouth Town Council today.
Thank you, Chair. I'll carry on. Right, so there are now two applications in front of you to be considered. It is the same applicant for the premises and they are next door to each other. They are two separate but virtually identical applications, with the only difference being the description of them. One is described as a daytime cafe and the other is a daytime and evening cafe. All the times are identical, with the explanation given that the operator will have the flexibility to be able to open the daytime cafe later if it's really busy. Both Environmental Health and the police have negotiated conditions which are identical for both licences, and as the applicant has agreed to these conditions, they have effectively been added to the operating schedule, and consequently those representations are now withdrawn. The revised times for the application are set out in paragraph 3.4 of the report, and the revised times are basically Monday to Thursday, 9 o'clock to 2300, Friday to Saturday, 9 o'clock till midnight, and Sunday, 10 o'clock till 2200. The full list of agreed additional conditions are set out for you in Appendix 2. There are now two outstanding representations, one from a resident and one from the Town Council. The resident is concerned about noise late into the night, which is preventing her family from sleeping. And the Town Council, after the consideration of the additional conditions, I believe that their only problem is having a noise limiter, or their only request is to have a noise limiter put onto the licence as a condition. The applicant and the Town Council have both indicated that they wish to speak at the hearing and are both here this morning. We have not heard anything back from the member of the public who objected. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Aileen. That's very helpful. Colleagues, do you have any questions for Aileen at this time?
Yes, I have one question. The Weymouth Town Council representation mentions the Weymouth Cumulative Impact Zone. I've looked up the policy on this in our overall licensing policy, and I'm struck it's a little bit ambiguous because it suggests that there will be a consultation on renewing it or whatever. I don't understand whether it actually applies at the moment. My reading is that it probably does apply and it's something we should be considering today. But could you comment on that, please?
Of course I can. The cumulative impact policy will be revised at some point in the near future, but it is still current as it stands at the moment. I would draw your attention to the bit about the cumulative impact policy that states that when we're considering, or when you are considering an application, examples of factors that may consider as demonstrating there will be no impact may include, though is not limited to, small premises who intend to operate up till midnight. Thank you.
Thank you. That's rather what I expected.
I don't have any questions.
Ms Gardner, Ms Knight, if you have any questions for the council at this time and the report author, you can ask any questions. Do you have any questions at this moment? Thank you. Councillor Wakely online, do you have any questions for the report author at this time?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We're now going to go over to the applicant to tell us what they would like to do, please. Over to you.
So with regards to the sound, I know that's probably like the biggest part of it. I agreed with EHO that it's literally just going to be like background music. So you can sit there and you can have like a comfortable conversation. You know, there's no going to be shouting over music. It's just going to be, there's no speakers like set up around the whole premises. It's literally just going to be one small speaker just for a little bit of background music. We've looked at the decibels. I know that you can get a, what's it called? I forgot what it's called now. Sorry, I'm really nervous. A decibel meter. So I'm going to buy one of those anyway, but my intention is not to go above 50 decibels. Like, it's literally just going to be sit down, have a nice conversation, have some nice food, you know, have a few drinks, but it's not going to be a nightclub. It's going to be a place where you can go and just have a quiet drink and sit and have a proper conversation. It's not, I have no intention for loud music. Thank you.
So I think that the rest of the conditions that were put forward, you've agreed to and accepted, haven't you?
I have, yes. Yeah.
How are you going to run the two premises there? You've got two separate, 26 and 27. How will you manage the two there? One's a cafe and night time. Tell us a little bit more, please. So just tell us what your dreams or your vision is for the two properties, please.
So number 26 is literally just going to be a daytime cafe, you know, that will offer bottled beer that will be only inside. I would just like to say there will be no glassware or bottles outside, no alcohol outside of the premises either. It's just going to be somewhere, you know, as well, again, quiet, to have like a quiet daytime drink, whereas 27 is going to be more of a cafe in the daytime, but also in the evening, with the same intentions that it's just going to be a quiet place to have something to eat and a nice, you know, a nice quiet drink. I'm going to do like bistro evenings, a couple of evenings a week, you know, with just like fresh seafood, local produce, a couple of nights a week, just, you know, to boost the local economy, you know, with using local produce. And yeah, that's about it really. I'm not really sure what else to say.
No, that's really helpful, thank you. What we're trying to look at and trying to get down, what's your vision, what's your dream? How do you think you're going to fit into Weymouth and the town centre there? How will you not impact on the community impact zone, which you've heard mentioned already? And what will you do to negate that? And we've heard the issues over noise, which you've kindly mentioned, that 50 decibels is a thing. I think you're content and happy to purchase and having potentially as a condition a noise monitor included in that. Come back to us. Any other thoughts? You see, how will you fit into Weymouth there?
There'll be signs saying, you know, we have to respect our neighbours. No, disposing of any glass bottles or anything like that between after 9 p.m. We do that at Hardy's Hop House anyway. A lot of the conditions that I've put together with Dorset Police and EHO, we follow with, because I'm the licensee of Hardy's Hop House. So a lot of those are very similar, the conditions that we've got there. And then it's just, no children after 7 o'clock in either of the premises. Sorry, my mind's just gone a bit.
Thank you. I realise this is quite daunting in here, and it's a very unusual setting, and life is difficult. So I understand that. So just relax, and as the chairman says, just trying to sound it all out to make sure we've done our job properly. Really, I can understand that background music is there to deaden the noise of whatever goes around, because you've got people who can talk and don't have to shout because they've got background music. I understand that. With premises which are open in the evenings, sometimes it's really the irritating part of it is when people come and go and they're saying goodnight and all that sort of stuff, and that's the noisy bit. It's not what you're doing indoors. I would expect that, having heard what you said, but how have you thought about how you keep the people who live close by with the children and the people who live next door? Because obviously it can be really, really annoying. It's much more annoying than people making a noise inside. It's the I'm off now, goodbye, and they're still doing it 10 minutes later. How have you thought about that, and how you deal with that?
Oh, sorry, it's my microphone on. I have been researching soundproofing, like the ceiling, and then around both 26 and 27. Not because, I plan to make loads of noise, but I do know that it's an old building. Walls are thin, as is everything else. So I think with the soundproofing as well, I'm looking and getting quotes at the moment, that will help. But also, you can't just keep swinging the doors in and open saying, bye, bye, because everyone knows that happens. It's just the doors will be closed, if we have to run this so strictly. Have you got any?
Also, all the staff will be trained like they are with Hardy's and Sophie's Other's business, The Boot, in keeping, even though the UK law is Think 21, we adopt the Think 25 law, which is a Scottish law in regards to alcohol. We don't have any door staff in Hardy's Hop House, so we have to manage the noise ourselves, and that's just by speaking to our customers respectfully. And then at some points we have actually had to ask customers we've given them like a week ban because they haven't been respectful outside and have disturbed neighbours. So we will be adopting the same thing there. We'll be reminding people there'll be signs as you leave outside the doors and everything else. But it's very hard to manage noise. You can't necessarily be that it's come from one premises. You have that whole nighttime economy that walks all along St Thomas Street and makes noise. So, as much as there will be controls put in place, you can't also blame it all on one people, because when people go from one pub to a different nightclub, you've got all that noise anyway. And I do believe you were looking into joining the pub watch scheme as well.
Because obviously that's how it goes, isn't it? But as long as you have thought about how you're going to deal with the dispersal of people when they leave outside, because you've obviously thought about inside, but it's outside which can be, and it wouldn't be everybody else's, it's just that hanging about and annoying. Yeah. If you've got that in control, that could be very helpful.
Thank you. You mentioned that you might have 1 or 2 bistro nights a week, that kind of thing. I'd like to get some feel for how important food will be in your overall offer. Is it something that in the evenings you'll always be offering, or just occasionally? What are people going to go to this place for? Is it mainly a drink, or is it food and drink?
I will be offering food every evening that we are open. I've got a standard menu, which is just like burgers. It's going to be mainly like a burger bar. And then we do breakfasts, burgers, hot dogs, and then just your normal pub grub like ham, egg and chips, sausage and mash, those kinds of things. And then on the couple of bistro nights, it will be seafood, probably from Wayfish. I need to find another fishmonger. Anyway, Wayfish, and then we'll use like local farmers for other bits and bobs, bistro. It's all local produce, so it's just going to be as and when I can source it, but it'll be 2 nights a week, I've decided. I've got a very good chef, if anyone is interested.
This may sound like a funny question, but how many tables, how many places where people can sit as compared to the amount of room where they're going to have to stand up? What sort of place does it look like?
Across the 2 premises, I've got 12 tables. So how many seats? We have 30 seats between the 2.
Just one thing, just to complete the picture, if you like, or to assist in the picture. How long have you been in the business, and have you had experience of elsewhere and such like?
Actually, I've been in hospitality for, 10 years. About 10 years now. Started bar work when I was 17. Anyway, I'm the licensee for the Boot Inn, and I'm also the licensee for Hardy's Hop House. So they're on a retail and a foundation agreement with Marston's. So I work very closely with that brewery. So that I've had a lot of training. I mean, they are quite intense with their training. So I've worked with Marston's for about 8 years now.
Thank you. Any other questions at the moment, colleagues? Luke, Councillor Wakeling, have you got any questions for the applicant, please?
Good morning. I probably more have statements for the committee than questions for the applicants. Is now the appropriate time?
I'll just go to the author and then just check there's no questions at the moment, then we'll come to you, Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, Chair. No questions from me.
Thank you, Aileen. Yeah, Councillor Wakeling, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everybody. So I'm representing Weymouth Town Council today. Weymouth Town Council has objected on the grounds of the cumulative impact policy and of noise nuisance under a public nuisance. Weymouth Town Council is very pleased to see some of the changes that have been made to the application through work between the responsible bodies and the applicants. Particularly, we're pleased with the conditions around CCTV that's been agreed, with Challenge 25 that has been agreed, and the reduction in opening hours. So we're pleased with all of that. Thank you. Our concerns remain around cumulative impact, which is an active policy in Weymouth still. This will now be a premises kicking out at midnight, which will add to the volume of people who are kicked out at midnight. Cumulative impact isn't just about the drinking, it is about the impacts surrounding that. So we have concerns that this will just add to the number of people competing for taxis and food or trying to go into other venues at exactly the same time, because midnight is about the crunch point when most places kick out. So we'd like the committee to please consider the cumulative impact of kicking out at that time. Our concerns about noise, I have listened to the applicant this morning, which is somewhat reassuring. Recorded music is a very broad category. I've been a licensee myself, and I understand it's appreciated that this licensee has stated what they intend to do, but they may have a change of heart in 12 months, or they may sell the business to someone else who interprets recorded music in a different way. So we would still seek for the committee to consider some conditions around noise and the amount of noise produced by the premises. 50 decibels sounds extraordinarily quiet to me. That's almost library quiet. But we would welcome some conditions just to, if that is the operating schedule the applicant is proposing, maybe conditions to keep to that operating schedule in future should anything else change around the premises. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wakeling. Aileen, do you have any questions for the Councillor Wakeling? Okay, so do you have any questions for the Weymouth Town Council through Councillor Wakeling? Anything you want to reassure him or speak about?
Just one thing. I don't plan to sell the business. I've actually got a 10-year lease on both the buildings, so I think that'd be quite hard to get off. So no, there is no intention of selling the businesses, or I don't really know. That's it, I think. Thank you.
I think what you've heard about the impact on the community is that, particularly taxis and people leaving at that time, and the people on the impact on Weymouth nighttime economy. And I think that's a valid concern that Weymouth Town Council have. Would you like to respond to that?
I was actually in talks with both of my area managers with Marston's about linking my businesses up together. So if it was such, we have a kicking out time at 11 o'clock, for example, we could encourage them to go to like Hardy's Hop House, because we're licensed until 2 a.m. there. On a Friday and Saturday, we are licensed until 2 a.m. So it was kind of like we were thinking about linking all the businesses together. So it's the same at the Boot. The Boot, we are licensed until 1 a.m. However, we do close the doors at 12. So at the moment we have a, what's the word? Dispersal plan of saying, oh, come down to Hardy's Hop House, we're licensed until 2, and it does actually work, doesn't it? So they have, it's not just people hanging around, because they have somewhere to go straight away. Does that make sense?
It does, but picking up on Councillor Wakeling's point, and he may wish to come back on this one, what you're doing is you're putting people out onto the streets of Weymouth at midnight when they've had a few drinks, and they're then going to walk to the Hardy's Hop House. And I'm not quite sure, where is the Hardy's Hop House? I'm not quite sure. Wait.
Thomas Street. It's also on St Thomas Street. Number 62, St Thomas Street, next to Tesco Express. Do you want to add anything? Oh.
Councillor Wakeling, did you want to come back in on anything that you've heard so far?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Do you have any questions for Weymouth Town Council or anything you want to respond?
Yeah. Sorry, do you actually have any suggestions on how we could possibly manage it, from personal experience?
I probably can't answer that on behalf of the town council, as I don't think the town council's ever made a decision like that. Certainly, sort of pub to club type proposal you're making seems fairly sensible, and I do acknowledge that your two premises are not far apart. But you do have residential above St Thomas Street on both sides. There are residential flats, so it's just managing that noise and making sure we're not disturbing residents if people are transiting from one venue to another at sort of midnight. There are residents there with families, etc., who are in that area too.
In regards to the transportation, obviously, I have actually worked at Hardy's Hop House before Sophie took over. So since June 2022, I have been there. And there has never been a noise complaint at all from it. There are our part of St Thomas Street where Hardy's is, for example, you've got Batida, you've got the Swan, you have got Slug and Lettuce, and you've got Playard. So we've got the Swan that kicks out at 1 a.m. You've got Slug and Lettuce that kicks out at 1 a.m. on a Friday and Saturday night. But with Sophie's other business, the bistro, it is a 7-day-a-week operation. The concerns that the town council have brought up about them looking for food, well, on the bistro nights, it would be later night serving of meals, so they wouldn't be looking for food for that. And surely in regards to looking for taxis, isn't that also boosting the Weymouth economy for the taxi firms that are there as well? And, you know, it's not going to, from my understanding, from Sophie talking through her business plans with me, reading the reports and everything else, it's not going to be that, you know, they're serving food up until midnight. We, back in March, had Young Farmers, which we, and how we managed the dispersal then. But as you've heard, there's 30 seats between the two businesses on 26 and 27 St Thomas Street. So, for example, if it was a particularly busy night, we would adopt the same dispersal as we did with Hardy's Hop House, and we had just under 500 people in one night. So to make sure that it didn't impact the town in a negative manner, when people left at a certain time, if they were a bigger group, they weren't allowed back in. They were informed of that, and then just split it down so not everybody's like, oh yeah, we've called last orders. 30 people can leave straight away. You know, you have to manage everything in a respectful way, not just for the residents, not just for the businesses, but for ourselves as well, because of our own reputation that we want to build up and to build up Weymouth again as well. So,
thank you, Trevor. Do you have any internal linkages to the two premises, or will there be any internal links?
No, there will not be any internal linkages. Thank you.
Out into the rain when you want to go from one to the other?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
It's outside into the rain when you want to go from 1 to 26 to 27.
Well, I can't really run up and down with an umbrella if I'm serving drinks and making sure everything's okay. But obviously, all members of staff have mobile phones. We do actually have walkie-talkies, but I don't know if it would have the range in between there. We generally use walkie-talkies within Hardy's Hop House, but we all have mobile phones that are on us.
I would imagine you wouldn't envisage having to use both premises very often at the same time. Does it happen? No.
Envisage that.
Councillor Wakeling, would you like to add anything else?
No, thank you, Chair.
Colleagues, have you got any more questions?
No, thank you, Chairman. But no, thank you, Chairman.
Right, so I'm going to ask everybody if they want to sum up. Aileen, have you got anything else you want to add or say? Ladies, have you got anything else you want to add or say? The questions at the moment? Okay. Would you like just to sum up where you are at the moment and add anything else? Just a complete summary of what you've said or what you want to do and where we are at the moment.
So number 26 and number 27, number 26 would be used primarily as a daytime cafe, with number 27 also for the extra seating. If it got busy in the evening side, that's the second part of the application where they'd like to use 26 just as a filter through, which holds a maximum of people seated as 30. Unfortunately, I don't know what your fire code was for maximum of people between the two premises, so I can't confirm on that. Make sure that obviously all the licensing is followed. So, like we said, we're suggesting from 11 o'clock, which is a nice time that the music is at 50 decibels, which is a respectable level for an ambient sound, so it's not disturbing anybody upstairs, not disturbing anybody in the street, which is surrounded on the ground floor by other businesses. Obviously, music travels. Sophie is looking at soundproofing both number 26 and number 27. Signs will be used in place, and a dispersal plan would be put in place if it was a busier night, for example. No children after 7 p.m. and encouraging to, if patrons did want to extend their evening, to come and use Hardy's Hop House, which is open till, our licensing at Hardy's is 9 till 12 Sunday to Thursday, but 9 till 2 a.m. on a Friday and Saturday. And then if that does become successful, that's where we will then look into other linkages between the two businesses. But as this is a separate business, not run with Marston's, the number 26 and number 27 isn't run with Marston's, isn't associated with Marston's in any way, shape or form. That's where we've got to make sure on the Marston side of it that we're not causing any trouble. I think that was absolutely everything. So 2 theme nights a week, like Sophie said, maybe seafood, more upper class rather. That sounds upper class, that sounds horrible. More classy food compared to your normal everyday burger, cocktail, burger, hot dogs and paninis and things like that, looking into maybe paella. You had a trial, didn't you, where they had a chef in and they did like crab burgers and dressed crab and things like that. So it's not going to be, or let's have your bass on and let's have a drum and bass night. It is just somewhere else in the area. Beachfront gets a lot of business. St Mary Street, some of the restaurants there are exceeding very well. Seafront are doing that. St Thomas Street has taken a very big dive in regards to offering anything else other than one part of St Thomas Street where you've got 5 pubs, and then you've got the White Hart, which is just by TK Maxx, and then the other side of the top end of St Thomas Street, you've got the House of Sound. So there isn't anything in between the two. It's not going to be, let's all get our glow sticks out and have a massive rave. It's just somewhere that people can be in the middle, and, you know, and maybe it can also alleviate some of the stress on the businesses that are down one side of the street, one down on the other. You've also got behind St Thomas Street and St Mary Street, you've got Chic nightclubs. So, you know, there are other places that are close by, not just focusing on going to Hardy's Hop House at the end of the day. So
this is totally irrelevant and it shouldn't affect anything. When you said no children after 7, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? Would you have do you have an age limit? What do you call children? Sort of 3 till 15 or something?
No, I'd say no under 18s after 7 o'clock. It's just to protect the licence. You know, I know especially, you know, over 16s can try it. And it's protecting children from harm. I mean, I've always personally thought that, you know, a child doesn't belong in you know, like an alcohol establishment after 7 o'clock. It's just a personal thing.
Just for the sake of those watching online, you obviously understand the licensing regulations and you know how a license can be reviewed and the process that follows. Have you got any measures in place? We've heard that there's an objector who's concerned about small children in the area, who lives nearby. Have you got any plans or thoughts in process how you can communicate with those people who may have children in the area, that so that you're not impacting on their quality of life and the children's sleep and therefore education? Have you got a sort of plan on that at all? Oh, I'm taking that from that look that there probably isn't, but can I ask you to consider that then, please?
it has been considered. The complainant themselves actually stated that their landlord will not put in double glazing. Obviously, Sophie doesn't own that building. You know, how can we make that better by giving, you know, if it's a listed building, nobody can put that in. So that's why we have said like 11 o'clock. Now, if their next door neighbour was having a kitchen party and having a few people around, or maybe a bit hard of the hearing and the TV and everything else, you know, that level, it's not going to interfere in that way. In regards to where they live. I have also lived on St Thomas Street. I've been disturbed by people leaving the Closet nightclub, leaving Rendezvous at 4 o'clock in the morning, shouting, screaming. The biggest actual noise problem in that area is the seagulls. To be 1,000% honest, is the seagulls making that noise. Obviously, deep voices do rise, nighttime noise carries. So the soundproofing, like Sophie said, the ceilings and the sides and things like that. Rubbish won't be left outside. We've got a plan for dispersal of our rubbish. No glass, so there won't be any broken things. So health-wise and environment in that way. And hopefully with the soundproofing, we're not looking at it to be a spittoon bar where we have people come in and are swearing and everything else, and we will be asking people to remember, you know, the local area, and so trying to prevent their sensitive ears in that way. But the likelihood during the week that it's going to be open until till 11 p.m. is actually quite limited. A lot of the pubs in the area, due to cost of living, let alone anything else, have to make a certain amount of money an hour, and if not, you've got the, you know, we've got other factors that don't get brought up in licensing, i.e. your wage bill, your gas, your electric, things like that. So if a certain amount hasn't been made, what Sophie has in her other businesses is that we close the pubs down, and no doubt the same will be done again. So at the moment it's school holidays, and tourist season. So while the tourists are about, most businesses are going to their full license times because that's where the economy is at the moment. But we're coming up to winter. We all know what winter is like in Weymouth. We lose a lot of tourism. We lose, the weather puts people off. So that's where the fine dining experience comes in, so to speak. And and a lot of chefs actually cook on until 11 o'clock at night. So there will be, I'm assuming, 10 o'clock last will be when people would be finishing up their meals. So maybe a 9:30 food service, end of food service, and then it's just a few drinks afterwards, maybe, like you would in any restaurant.
That's really helpful, thank you. I think the combination of factors, and I just want to draw that out for the people online that are looking at this, and I'd hope that you'd have an open dialogue, positive dialogue with people living in the area anyway, but I think with the soundproofing, the process of people leaving, the sound potential monitoring, if the license is granted, all these factors put into place would help reassure local residents there. Thank you for that. Anything else you'd like to add? Aileen.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to add two things. You've heard some mention of having a 50 dB level maybe set. If you are minded to put that sort of condition onto a licence, could I just caution you that you need to put a bit more detail in than just a level. There needs to be a point at which that level would be measured, because it is vastly different as to whether it's at source or whether it's outside the premises or whether it's at the nearest noise sensitive premises, which it should be specified. So I would caution you a bit on that one. The other thing that you've heard about is maybe setting a noise limiter. If you are minded to set that, I would appreciate it if you could put a time frame on for which it's to be set up, because it's quite a complicated process with a noise limiter. You have to have somebody, a couple of environmental protection officers down there. You have to have one in the building, one outside the building, and they have to confer to get the levels set correctly. So that was all I wanted to say. Thank you, Chair.
Colleagues, any questions at all for Aileen or anything?
Thank you. Fine, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Wakeling, is there anything else you'd like to add or to sum up on what you've said so far?
Thank you, Chair. Only say I've listened to the conversation. The applicant's saying all the right things, just they're not in black and white on the licence. I know from my experience, and I said this earlier, licensees sometimes have a change of heart. As they say, the winter's very bleak. Sometimes you need do something desperate to get some more sales in. So whilst I welcome them describing their operating schedule verbally, I would personally, I'd prefer some more of it to be actually codified onto their license so that everyone knows where we stand and it's clear to all parties this is what was agreed at this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wakeling. Right. I think we've heard from everybody. Ladies, is there anything else you'd like to add? I just want to give you the comfort that you should go away from here and feel we've heard everything you've got to say and you don't forget anything.
No, I think we've said everything. Thank you. I'm still nervous, yeah.
Aileen, Laura, anything you want to add?
No, thank you, Chair. I think I've said enough.
Phil, have we covered everything from the legal perspective? Thank you very much. The subcommittee will consider its decision in private with the Democratic Services Officer in attendance and the legal advisor who may be called upon to offer legal guidance. The decision of the Licence Subcommittee shall be communicated to the parties as soon as practicable and within 5 working days. And the normal thing we say, the right of appeal, any party who wishes to appeal the decision has 21 days from the date of receipt of this notice to submit an appeal to the Magistrates' Court. Does everybody understand that? Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. At 11:41, we close the meeting. So can I have a proposal to go to exempt business, please, to consider?
Can we go to exempt business first?
No second.
Thank you very much. At 11:41, we close the meeting. Thank you all.